everybody, and welcome to Lace's Dungeon. Today we're going to be reading DM made us fight deadly encounters every session, barely any loot, and just couldn't handle my changeling bard. This is my first post here, so I hope I can write this in an interesting to read way. But as a bit of a disclaimer, this is not a fluent story, because it was not really the campaign itself that was a problem, but just little incidents happening repeatedly that made it to be one of my D&D horror stories. So I will just tell you about the incidents itself instead of every detail of the year I played in this campaign. So I came to D&D 5e over 1.5 years ago because a friend of mine asked to join his online one-shot adventure that took 8 sessions. I was absolutely hooked from the start and loved the game, so I quickly reached out to the other players of the one-shot and got invited in a small group. The DM was a player from the one-shot and he caused some trouble with our DM, but I did not know what was going on, so I didn't really notice it until way later. He sort of bullied another new player in the group that made some dumb decisions and argued with the DM about a madness effect he got, which he used to attack the other new players. But yeah, it was my first ever real D&D experience, and I didn't really notice right there how bad it was. And also, I just wanted to play more, so I didn't really care that much at the moment. Needless to say, I started playing in this group. But wait, first let's go to character creation. So the DM wanted us to point buy, because he wasn't a fan of rolling stats at all, because he really obsessed with stat points. He was this, oh no, this character has 2 more points in his stat total, that is totally unbalanced kind of guy. I made a changeling bard, not because I knew the class, but because the other new guy in the one-shot played a bard and I liked what he could do. Bards are my favorite class until today. The changeling came from the DM of the one-shot who told me there is this class that can change its appearance, and I loved it. For my stats, I pushed charisma as much as I could, dumped strength, 10 constitution to not get HP penalty, and then I raised intelligence to a 14 because he was a lore bard who went to college studying said lore, so it would be weird if he wouldn't have some knowledge. I spread the rest over dexterity and wisdom, so I think I had a +1 and a 0 in them, but I'm not sure anymore. I took the entertainer background for his subclass. I went with the College of Lore, and I just found it very exciting that I had 10 skill proficiencies. I still did not know how this class even worked or how any of D&D even worked. Hence I took a long sword as his weapon because it sounded cool, with -1 strength. But I loved that I could sing and dance and play lutes and castanets. I made him to be this guy who was just out for fun and cared little about others, only about him getting his way with his charm, and when that stopped working he would just leave town, change his appearance, and travel to the next town. Rinse and repeat. He would also be the kind of guy who would make fun of you and insult you just to play it off with his charm the next moment. First time vicious mockery. As a kid, he saw this one bard who was admired by everyone, and being the kid of changelings, a race that constantly has to hide itself and be super cautious, he just also wanted to be admired and stand in the spotlight. So without thinking too much about it, he followed this bard and lost his family because trying to find a changeling family. So he really just had this random dude who he followed along but didn't want him and just dumped him at the nearest bardic college he could find. So essentially, behind the fun and charming face of him, he was just really lonely, he just didn't realize. So yeah, my character was a bit edgy and kind of that guy, but hey, it was my first character ever in the one-shot before I got a pre-made ranger for my DM. So I guess that's that. So the first sessions with the party were a bit, let's just say, it took some time for my character to get along with them, but as soon as it clicked between them, it really did. There were 3 regular players and one who just showed up every other session and wasn't really integrated, so essentially with me, it was a party of 4 and we really quickly developed a really close bond, like family. This of course was overwhelming for my character, and he quickly changed from just not caring to caring a lot for his new friends. He did some really dumb stuff, got himself in the party in some huge problems, and when they solved it, he got beaten up by them because they didn't want any of his bullshit. But that was really the moment for my character to realize they were something special, because they didn't want him to leave, they just wanted him to not bring them any more trouble than they could handle. So the party was really great. We had a lot of really intense roleplay parts, where we just comforted each other and told stories and shared stuff together, or some evenings at the bar where I could play music together with a lighter and everyone just had a great time. But yeah, the reason we needed comforting was really apparent. You see, in this campaign was a big problem with undead when I joined. And with big, I mean big. We were 4 players at level 5, a fighter, a ranger, a cleric, and my bard. The fighter had 1 level warlock, so he didn't have extra attack yet, and he didn't take Eldritch Blast as a spell. The ranger played one of the many revised ranger types where she also didn't have an extra attack, but she got it at level 6, but that was way later. And clerics and bards don't get extra attacks. And the zombie hordes were like 2 wights, 5 skeletons, and a handful of zombies for extra flavor. I think the DM buffed the skeletons and zombies, but I can't remember our cleric using Destroy Undead with them. But I am not sure about it. And we had such encounters every session, just really deadly encounters that we barely survived. My bard was at least 3 times down every battle. And everything we ever got from them was, oh yeah, they have these really filthy weapons and armor, but if you want to sell it, it would be worth nothing. We could get around that somehow by fixing up the stuff we could loot. The cleric had mending and I had prestidigitation, so we could at least get about half the original selling price of the items, but divided by 4, it was still not really much money we got from fighting these zombie hordes. He also rolled D4 to determine if the weapon/armor our encounters had were unusable at all, or if they were just broken and beyond repairs, so we didn't even get as much loot as undead could give, which is already few to be honest. So yeah, we fought to our dead nearly every session and didn't really get anything from it, for about half a year or so, which was very exhausting. Another story from the beginnings of my time in the campaign was the one where I got beaten up. We were in a monastery and I wanted to use my shape change to just sneak around a bit. I stole some monk robes and changed into one monk and just wandered around a bit. I rolled really well on my skill checks, so I didn't get into trouble that night, but the next morning they were out for me. My party tried to help me climb over the wall, didn't work. They tried to sneak me out as one of the group, didn't work. At least I changed into one of the other guests. There were vampires, we just didn't know yet. And I got captured because the other guests magically escaped during the night or so, I don't know. They tried to interrogate me with a zone of truth, which I resisted, and they were even more suspicious because I resisted. They splashed holy water on me, they changed me, just everything. My character had had enough of this bullshit and made snarky comments, which just made it worse. I managed to message my party somehow by noticing that you don't have to see a surface to cast a mark with prestidigitation, or was it minor illusion, on it, so I did. They came to rescue me by telling them some BS about this guy who I was currently changed into kidnapping me, and we had to find his wife. After some back and forth, they finally let us go, but not without a monk coming with us. So we had to improvise this whole wolf attack with our druid, who was there for about 5 minutes in that session, just for this attack, to get the monk away. It worked out, but I was still chained with manacles. I tried to escape by changing my hands and arms really thin, but oh surprise, it was a demon manacle who changed with me. This is the first time where the DM was really obviously doing a no, I don't let you use your racial ability to get these manacles off, even now where everything is over. My party beat me up for that BS. I deserved it, nothing wrong with it. I took it and let them beat me without complaining. And we went back to our base town, me with 1 HP left and still chained to the manacles. Then we had this really great roleplay moment where we all just lost a bit of our sanity because of the crazy that was going on, and we started singing, dancing, and playing music on the way back. But our DM didn't have it and gave us an encounter with 2 dryads and some elves. Needless to say, we were not ready for it at all. The fighter failed 1 wisdom save after the other and was in some bush with the dryad, not because the DM realized that we were absolutely in no shape for the encounter, but because our fighter used her action to shove the dryad in the bush to make out. Our cleric failed his save a lot of times too, so there was only the ranger and me, a bard without usable hands and 1 HP left to fight them. It was a catastrophe, an absolute disaster. I got some vicious mockeries out, was hit to 0 hit points a few times. Cleric patched me up about 4 or 5 times at least, and our ranger basically had to do everything herself. After about 10 or 12 rounds of combat, the DM finally realized that he would just lead us to a TPK, and after the ranger finally managed to kill an elf, he let the rest of them flee. Fortunately, the elf we killed had a potion of poison we could finally use to get the manacles off of my hands, but still, it was bad. He even let them roll sleight of hand to see if they would spill some poison on me and kill me with it. Then, after a few months of play, I finally learned that a long sword was not the best option for me. I traded it in for a short sword with our fighter, but I tried to get my hands on a rapier and the gold to pay for it. As I said, we hadn't had much loot, so we got a fairly big city with a blacksmith, and I asked him for a rapier. He told me he had none. I should check the big city somewhere entirely else. I was like, yeah, but I need one now. Could you please make one? And he was like, nah, not for any price you could afford. I was still about 10 gold from affording a normal price rapier, and 10 gold were like 3 fights with zombie hordes, so it was a lot of money missing. But we found out that there was a hidden prostitution going on in the city. I figured, since I was a changeling and I had decent charisma, I could make some money there, and yeah, I got about 2 gold a night working there. That is not much, but in the moment it seemed like a fortune. We didn't play any of it out though. It was just, yeah, you go there to work and you get 2 gold. That being said, we obviously had to pay for a room to sleep in, and there was 5 silver a night, so I really just made 1.5 gold. I abused the crap out of my entertainer feat to at least get food for free, so I had a bit of money left to save for my rapier. But I will skip to the end here real quick. I somehow got the money together for a rapier. The blacksmith still didn't sell them, and then I died in a battle where we TPK'd and lost all my money. Hadn't got my hands on a rapier in the entire game. For the TPK, this one occurred in a dungeon. He had balance for 5 of us, but the druid left the party this session before, so we were just 4. There was a smuggler ring, and I tried to get my way with them socially, but no. Then I don't really remember what happened, but somehow we chased them down the hall, split our group in 2-2, not on purpose. It just happened because our fighter dashed somewhere, and I didn't want her to go alone. And then we fought with them. As you know already, it didn't end well. My bard died there after the fighter unsuccessfully tried to stabilize him. He failed all 3 death saving throws. It was not really a problem for me. As the campaign was developing, I had seen him long dead before that, so it just felt like, now it's finally happening. The DM told me that if I wanted, I could keep playing him. I just had to make a character for in between, because we had to find my corpse and get the money to resurrect him. Ha 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 ha. But yeah, I did. I made his twin sister as a character, an undead warlock with 1 level sorcerer, so she could have natural armor and also don't die. But oh boy, I did not know what we were getting into to get the body of my bard. You might remember the vampires from earlier? Well, there was an entire castle full of vampires, and they had my bard to make some undead experiments with him. We were still level 5. But wait, there is more. We had 10 days because we could not afford anything more than raise dead. Also, to get to the castle, we had like 2 options. The first one which we figured out fairly easily, because anything led to it was a mountain pass. Everyone told us it was really dangerous, but well, everything in this campaign was, and we really didn't know where else to go, so we gave it a try. After a fight with 1 wyvern, another with 3 manticores, and another fight with 2 bullets, we decided to turn and run, because we would literally die in there. Our DM even told us that there would be a rock in the mountains, so there was no way we could get there. And after that, we finally got more than just 1 clue that we could go to the swamps. The zombie-infested swamps, where we fought for our lives more than once. We sure were thrilled. So more zombie hordes, more fighting, more really tedious, exhausting, and draining fighting we all did enjoy, just to go down a stair and fight again. We then somehow got my bard's soul back from the plane of the dead. He shared a body with his sister, which was really cool. And then we had to get to the vampires, to the fully infested vampire lair. But hey, at least we got level 6 for it. A short side note, because the lair itself is not really much to tell, you know the drill by now, but as we wanted to get there in and out as quickly as possible, we didn't really care to explore everything. What should have been clear, but guess where the DM placed the first really cool loot in the entire campaign? Yeah, in some extra rooms of the vampire castle. But yeah, long story short, we could revive him with level 6. He learned Fireball, so he was a bit more useful in combat, and we had to escort a ship to some coast town as payment for the resurrection. We were euphoric about that because at that point we talked about half a year how badly we just wanted to get to the beach, lie in the sun, and chill out, without hordes of undead around us. But the DM was convinced that we would not have a real reason to go there. Sure, because heavy depression, which my bard, the ranger, and the fighter also a bit had developed during this really grindy and unrewarding campaign so far. And just a chill week with fun and without fights would not be enough motivation for us. But now we finally could go. That leads me to the next incident, where my DM really did not want me to be, well, a bard. So there was this dragon attack on the ship. With just level 6, a young dragon was a real challenge for us. My bard, not wanting to die again, just did not want to fight a dragon to potentially die again. Can you imagine? So I had the spell suggestion, and for some reason I could speak Draconic. So I cast suggestion on the dragon to ask it politely to go and eat some other people and not us. So just as a reminder, suggestion is a 2nd level spell. The target has to make a wisdom saving throw, and if it fails, it does what the caster suggested. But the suggestion has to be told in a reasonable range of things, so the dragon would not kill himself. The DM was hesitant to allow it, but then rolled the save and failed. But instead of having my spell succeed, he asked me to play it out, so I did. I talked to the dragon, told him we were not really the best food for him, that I saw some dinosaurs a few miles earlier, everything totally reasonable. But my DM still didn't let me succeed. During the roleplay bit, I had to roll 2 persuasion checks to convince the dragon. There was no real problem for me. My bard had expertise in it plus 10 in performance at this point. So I succeeded both, but we all knew he just wanted me to fail. He didn't want me to just end this epic dragon encounter in such an unepic way. After he was out of reasons to let me fail, he finally let me succeed. But just to make my party mad at me, because the first NPC we met in the coast village told us there was a bounty of 1,000 gold on this dragon. We couldn't claim it since we didn't kill it. So yeah, it was the reason we didn't get to fight that dangerous dragon and earn 1,000 gold. Speaking of this dangerous dragon, another day at the coast town, we just wanted to chill. I missed a session, and they had to fight like this ridiculous overpowered sandworm at the beach, where they didn't have their weapons and armor with them because they just wanted a chill day at the beach. So we wanted to have a relaxing beach day the next day. We also wanted some booze to drink, margaritas at the beach while chilling, but the liquor store was closed. I will say now that I know that my behavior in this session wasn't the best either. There was some other stuff going on which involved the DM and me, and I was sure it would be my last session in this group, even before the session started. So I didn't really care that much about what was going on. I just wanted to have a chill last session with my friends, and they were also down for that. So yeah, the liquor store was closed, and fighters suggested to just break the lock and take some liquor, since we really didn't want to wait and just chill at the beach. Ranger had thieves' tools, so we all tried, but we all failed. After the 3rd failed attempt, 2 guards approached us asking what was going on. We told them something, I don't know anymore what it was. The guards didn't believe us. This back and forth went for about 10 minutes. We all just wanted to leave, but the guards wanted to interrogate us further. So fed up by this, my bard cast suggestion on one of them, asking them to just let it slip and leave us alone. The guard succeeded in the wisdom save. He had like a +5 or 6 on wisdom saves or something like that, and obviously he immediately knew I tried to spell him. They couldn't prove it, so we denied, and the discussion continued for another 5 minutes. More fed up about this, my bard cast silence on the guards, turned around and left with his group. The guards followed us, we ignored him, but after all, we really just wanted to stop talking to them and get to the beach to finally have our vacation day we wanted for so long. After a while of just going and ignoring the guards, it grappled me because I was now some sort of villain number 1 because of my spellcasting. I tried to get out of the grapple, but with -1 strength against, I think they had about +3-ish on it, I failed. So they took me to their police station to lock me up. Fighter followed me, Ranger and Cleric stayed outside. Cleric didn't want to get involved in all of this, and Ranger just figured she would be of more help if she stayed outside. She was, but first the interrogation of the police guard station. It was draining, it was exhausting, it was horrible. It was a full-on 45 minutes Ace Attorney style interrogation scene where Fighter did most of the talking and tried to get me out of there. They couldn't prove anything. They wouldn't know that I had cast Suggestion on one of them, and since Silence was an AoE spell, I technically didn't target any of them, and so didn't break the law against not casting spells against the guards, which we learned of in the police station. Since this was not long after my resurrection, I had exactly 1 Electrum coin to my name, so I was even more fed up when they wanted me to pay a 50 gold fine. Remember, 50 gold in a campaign where the most valuable way to get gold was prostitution for 1.5 gold a night. After this 45 minutes more just wasting there, I asked the one guard where I could go to the bathroom. I was a changeling after all, so I figured we could just walk out. If Ranger could cause a distraction for a few minutes, that I could get out of the bathroom with a different body. They showed me to the bathroom. One guard waited in the front of it, and I found a little widow where I could talk to Ranger and ask her for a distraction. She had this great idea to let her pet baby dragon fly very high so it would cast a gigantic shadow on the town. Remember, the same town that was so terrified of a dragon that they offered 1,000 gold bounty. So she ran into the police station, totally panicking, telling the guards that the monstrous dragon came back, and she rolled really high on her deception. I think it was a 23 or something like that, but definitely above a 20. What happened? One random guard was like, "Nah, we won't be much of a trouble, but if you insist, I follow you there." There's not even the guard in front of the bathroom or one of the two guards interrogate me. It was just some random dude there. To go look at the possible threat of a giant dragon. No, the random guy who might or might not have tried to just have a good day at the beach was more important. You cannot imagine how fed up I, as a player, was at this moment. So I got back to the interrogation, and about 10 to 15 minutes later we could make a deal that I would work off my 50 gold fine by playing in the beach bar. I gave them a false name, rolled higher on my deception than their insight, so they believed me. We could finally leave. I changed my appearance, got rid of my clothes, and swore to look nothing like that ever again. We could finally go to the beach. It was late noon already, so the beach bar was open and we could all just drink the bull out of our system. We then had like 5 minutes of what we originally wanted, a chill day at the beach with some booze before the session ended. When I left the group after that session, I just could not bear with this anymore. My bard was really in no shape to continue adventures in this world where there is something way too OP out to kill him around every corner. I really had no intentions of playing my character any longer with a DM who just didn't want my character to be, a changeling bard. And I also didn't want to make a new character that I had to min-max the crap out of it just to not die in 5 minutes of play. I love the +2 intelligence on my bard because it came in handy a lot of the time to just know stuff because of a good skill check. I actually loved everything about my bard. I played him once more in a different group for a 4-session one-shot, and I still love almost everything about him. But the lack of dexterity and flavor, the unnecessary stat increase or intelligence boost was the reason why I could not, for the life of me, keep up with the already deadly encounters. The temporary warlock character I made for the time until we could get my bard's body really showed me this issue again. I built her the way she would not die because I was not happy with her ability scores because it wouldn't make a character I would enjoy playing. But I just could not afford to waste any point in anything but my main stat, secondary stat, and constitution. I still like the character concept I had for her, but she just couldn't be the character I wanted her to be in this campaign. So yeah, TLDR would be, I left my first campaign ever because the DM couldn't handle my changeling bard, made things unnecessarily hard for him, threw us one deadly encounter after the other without real loot, and really what I needed to do with my characters to just survive his campaign, which I failed, were nothing I really enjoyed. That one was a long one, and I feel really bad for him because it seemed like he really was close to the other players, even though I feel like it's a bit wrong for them to beat him because he would cause problems. I do think that's a little bit crazy, and I would think that that's kind of wrong. But this DM seems to really not want any of them to live, with deadly encounter after deadly encounter, and to not let your players have fun. All they wanted was to have a chill day, and he wouldn't even let them do that. And even when they did they didn't fail checks, like they succeeded, he would make it so you would fail it one way or another because he didn't want his stories to be ruined. He just wanted to kill. I feel like it was more of a DM versus player versus not just him as the changeling bard. I think the DM must have really didn't like any of the other characters or the players because of the fact it seemed like he was trying to kill everyone. But that's all for today. I hope to see you all next time at Lace's Dungeon. Have a good day. Bye.